What's up, guys? Kyle McGee here, and we are back with another episode of Wrestling the Past. And once again, I am joined by the legendary Drew Blazer. Drew, how's it going today, buddy?
Oh, thank you. Doing pretty well. How you doing?
Oh, I can't complain. Things are going interesting around here, to say the
It was
least.
a great interview with Big Whiskey the other day,
Thank
last
you. I
week.
appreciate that. Yep. And if you guys haven't checked it out yet, it is on the YouTube channel in video form on the PAX YouTube channel. It's also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just search Wrestling the Past for the interview with Big Whiskey Jared Kripke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are this week. We started the show off by covering the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw, and then did a contrast. And in episode 2, we covered the first ever episode of Nitro. It was a fun time. And now here we are. It's gonna be March when you guys are listening to this, March 1st.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
yeah, crazy to believe it's already March. And Drew, you know what that means? It's Wrestlemania March.
Wrestlemania.
That's right. So we're gonna be doing an episode once a week covering a WrestleMania topic. On the road to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas this year. I want to say it's April 2nd and April 3rd, correct? That sounds right.
It should be.
That sounds right. So yeah, and then so we're going to be covering an episode once a week until then on a different WrestleMania or a WrestleMania-like topic. We'll get to that near the end of the show when we kind of give you guys another breakdown, because things have changed a little bit since we first announced WrestleMania March. But the one thing that hasn't changed, Drew, is what we're covering today. Tell them what we're covering.
Covering the first ever WrestleMania. Man, back in 1985.
That is right. March 31st, 1985, the first ever WrestleMania took place at Madison Square Garden in front of a reported attendance of 19,121 with a reported 398,000 buys.
Oh, man. Now, do you know if Starrcade was first or was it WrestleMania?
So Starrcade was first. The first ever Starrcade was in 1983.
Oh.
Yep, the first ever Starrcade was in 1983, and I'm pretty sure, and now you're going to have me Googling this, so way to go. I am pretty sure that the first ever main event was Ric Flair versus Harley Race. Yes, it was Starrcade 83, a Flair for the gold, but spelled F-L-A-R-E. And yes, it was a no disqualification cage match, Ric Flair versus Harley Race. It also featured a special collar match between Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine. Of course, we've heard that reference on AEW recently. The World Tag Team Championships, the Jerry and Jack Briscoe versus Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat. But that's not what we're here to cover. But ironically enough,
no, I know.
Ricky Steamboat and Rowdy Piper and Greg Valentine, 3 names I just mentioned, are all going to come up here during WrestleMania.
Just 2 years later.
Just 2 years later. It's kind of funny how this is kind of a recurring theme through this podcast as we go and look through these old things. And I think it's kind of a testament to like the territory days that were still kind of around back then. Like even in the early to mid 90s, there was a bit of the territory days where guys were just kind of jumping back and forth. That's kind of what's happening here. Guys are just kind of jumping back and forth from promotion to promotion at this time.
Yeah, like it kind of evolved, but it was still very much kind of territory thing where you just jump around.
Absolutely. Yeah. This was actually the start of the death of the territories. WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
So, to give a little backstory behind WrestleMania for some of our casual or even non-wrestling fans, I know we've got some non-wrestling fans that we know personally that are probably listening to this. And even just the casual fans who maybe don't know the full history of WrestleMania. So, Vince McMahon's father owned the WWF, then the WWF. Vince always had the vision that this could be something more. Obviously, his father wasn't really wanting to compete. He promised the other promoters, that neither he nor his son would ever try to put them out of business. Little did he know. In 1980, he became chairman. In 1984, when his father passed away, he became the sole owner of the WWF. and he decided he wanted to produce a wrestling event on closed circuit television for the first time ever. Closed circuit television events back then, they were events that had to be paid for and seen in a movie theater. Of course, this is what we now known as pay-per-view, where we can watch in the comfort of our own homes. But he decided he was going to do the first ever closed circuit television event, and it was going to be called Wrestlemania. He soon announced that on March 31st, 1985, Wrestlemania 1 would take place live from Madison Square Garden. He and the WWF received a lot of flack for this from, the traditionalists and the promoters at the time. His father had promised he would never try to put them out of business. They basically said he was going to kill his company. And, when you think about it, this was a huge gamble, was it not?
Oh, it was a very huge gamble, but, to be a successful businessman, that's what you got to do. And you got to hurt people's feelings and such, and that's just how it is.
And, I feel like there's so many different times we could discuss this, but now I feel like is a very appropriate time to discuss this. So now, looking back with hindsight, the death of WCW and the death of the territories and all these things, it did hurt the wrestling business quite a bit, especially the death of WCW.
Oh, yeah.
I when I say especially, I mean, like, that was the day to a lot of people that pro wrestling died. And, this just kind of laid the groundwork for that to take place. But I feel like it's kind of a double-edged sword, because at the same time, I think had WrestleMania never happened and had Vince not turned, and I know hardcore fans hate this term, but had Vince McMahon not turned the WWF into sports entertainment, I don't think wrestling would have ever became as big as it did.
Oh, I mean, whether people want to give him credit or not, he should be given credit for making it what it is now.
And
definitely.
He absolutely should. Now, obviously, is he exactly the most in-touch guy nowadays? No. But to try and erase all the good that he's done in this business, which obviously he's done some bad too. He's done a lot of bad. But wrestling became a household thing in the 90s. And yeah, WCW and the NWO kind of beat him to the punch. But they wouldn't have even tried to do it had the WWF not existed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
there's something to be said about being uncomfortable and being under pressure.
Yeah, and he was definitely under pressure with this event. He knew very well this was a gamble, and it had to pay off, or it was going to be the end of him, and it was going to be the end of the World Wrestling Federation. I mean, there's no denying that. And if people don't believe me, just think about, in the mid to late 80s, sorry, the mid to early to mid 80s, I mean, they weren't this $1 million corporation juggernaut like they are today. They were, most wrestling promotions back then, honestly, were kind of hemorrhaging money. This was, a lot of money was going to go into this, securing the garden, the closed circuit television live broadcast. Like, that was a lot of money, and there was no guarantee it was going to work. Can you imagine if nobody had paid to go see it?
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, that would have been pretty bad.
I mean, that would have been the end of the WWF, would it not?
Yeah. They had faith in their product, and they gave it a try. And, yeah, it paid off, as we see, 37 years later.
Yep. Absolutely. Here we are 37 years later, and we are covering the very first one. So that was a nice little history lesson for our listeners and our viewers. But let's get into it. So, WrestleMania 1 live from Madison Square Garden. We kick things off. We have a brief intro, and it's pictures that are showcasing the match card for the night, as well as the different celebrities that are going to be in attendance. We see pictures of Liberace and Cyndi Lauper and Muhammad Ali, and it's less of a pro wrestling event as it is a big spectacle with pro wrestling as the focal point, right?
Yeah, you see that right away. Yeah, you're right.
Right away. And the one thing I want to talk about is, man, watch the intro to the show and compare it to an intro from today.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, it's very kind of old.
Yeah, very just
very kind of basic.
Yeah, you've got the plain music, and it's just a picture. You've got picture of one part of the match on the upper left and then the other part of the match on the bottom right, and then sometimes it reverses, but that's all it really is. You pointed out to me what you noticed in the background of the picture for Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Yeah, you want to tell people what you noticed in the background of that picture?
Yeah, the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers. Because, they were in New York, so, yeah, wow.
It's wild, it happens a lot when you go back and watch old stuff from New York. They're everywhere. They were iconic landmarks.
It's like on Friends, which I don't think you've really seen much of, but nonetheless.
Not really, but...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we kick things off, and Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura welcome us to Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania. Jesse Ventura is in a tuxedo that I can only describe as loud. But that was Jesse's style. Jesse and Gorilla, quite the iconic pair on commentary.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, some would probably prefer them over Gorilla and Bobby. I don't know.
I think I might, depending on the event and the time. We talked about Gene Okerlund having one of the best voices in wrestling last week, but I would be remiss if I didn't throw Gorilla Monsoon on that list.
Yeah.
Gorilla Monsoon, just iconic voice. And speaking of iconic voices, they introduce us to Howard Finkel.
Yes, who, by the way, I believe actually came up with the name WrestleMania.
Interesting. I did a brief little bit of research this morning. As you know, it's been chaotic around here. I do believe that sounds correct. But yeah, Howard Finkel looking young here. We've got the classic MSG mic that's hanging down. He welcomes the crowd to WrestleMania in his iconic voice. And then he announces that Mean Gene Okerlund is going to be singing the national anthem.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It was kind of surprising, but hey, not too bad.
No, not too bad. Not too bad. He asked the crowd to sing him and join him in the national anthem. He gets a tremendous applause at the end. Very patriotic crowd, of course. It's mid-'80s in New York and America. Of course, very, very patriotic crowd. But yeah, not too bad. Of course, Jesse says that he didn't think Gene had it in him, but he ranks right up there with Robert Goulet, who I meant to research who that is.
Even I don't know who that is.
I don't know the name off the top of my head. So you know what? I'm going to throw it up to the Google machine real quick.
Sure.
Robert Goulet was an American singer and an actor of French-Canadian ancestry.
Oh,
wow. He was cast as Sir Lancelot in the Broadway musical Camelot. So, I mean, that's quite a bit of a compliment for him to say that.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if he was being sarcastic, but...
I think he was definitely being sarcastic. I'm kidding. He was... So, yeah, after that, we get this tremendous applause. We cut to a man who we're going to see a lot throughout the night.
Oh, boy.
Lord Alfred Hayes.
Yeah, he was kind of a nervous little fellow, wasn't he?
He definitely was, and I think it didn't help him that when he's talking, the wrestlers are making their entrances and walking by him, and you also got the pressure of being live and knowing that, like, what you're saying is airing live. And I kind of feel for the guy because he's speaking live and is cutting to pre-taped interviews. Like, this poor guy, doesn't get a do-over.
That's not really fair, no.
No, he almost didn't fit in, right?
Yeah, I don't think he was really comfortable. I mean, like we said, WrestleMania was a big kind of new thing at the time, live and everything. It was a lot of pressure, so I think he felt it, Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
you could see it in his face. But he's going to set up our first match. It's going to be between Tito Santana and the Masked Executioner, who's making his debut in the WWF. So we're getting an unnamed guy with a mask making his debut to face Tito Santana, who at this time is feuding with Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Intercontinental Champion, who we'll see later. The Masked Executioner is, of course, Buddy Rose, Playboy Buddy Rose, under a mask. Playboy Buddy Rose was essentially the Ric Flair of the Northwest Territory, so kind of weird to see him used in this fashion on a WrestleMania, but what I've heard is that Vince wanted him on the first WrestleMania. You know, he was a solid big man worker. He was a bit of a heavier set guy. Vince wanted him on the first WrestleMania for his work rate, but he didn't want him losing as Buddy Rose. So that kind of tells you how in tune with things in the territory Vince was at the time, does it not?
Oh, yeah. At that time, yeah.
And it also tells you, like, he obviously wanted something big for this guy. He didn't want him losing to Tito Santana in his debut.
Yeah, that's very cool of him. Because I don't know if he would act like that now.
No,
but
definitely not.
Yeah, back then.
But yeah, no, I thought that was a pretty cool little factoid. Wow. So Lord Alfred Hayes is going to send it to Gene Okerlund, who we are also going to see a lot tonight in a pre-taped interview. He's going to be interviewing Tito Santana first. Tito knows nothing about the Executioner, but he's a big man that's never been in the WWF. But nobody's going to stop him from reaching his goals, and he's going to welcome the Executioner to the big leagues. Executioner, of course, comes in from the other side. So that's another thing. Before I get to what Executioner says, how interesting was this when they're doing these backstage interviews, and Gene Okerlund interviews one guy, and the guy walks off, and then the other guy walks over from the other side. So, like, they're standing, 5 feet apart during all this?
Yeah, I was going to say that later on, just how weird that was.
Yeah,
and they would talk crap and stuff, and then the guy would walk off, and then the other one would respond, and it's like, well, they're right there by each other.
Yeah, and there's one particular example that really sticks out to me, and I'll get to that when we get to that actual match. Executioner comes in, says he's going after the leg that was hurt by Greg the Hammer Valentine. He's here to go after the leg. Everybody's going to know who the Executioner is after tonight. He belongs in the big leagues, and he's here to go after the leg and nothing else. Buddy Rose was definitely not comfortable doing this character, and I felt like it kind of showed. His promo just felt awkward. It felt like he just said the same thing over and over again. I was expecting him to say he's going to kick his leg out of his leg. But that
yes, of course, yes.
But somebody else would coin that
about 10 years
phrase
later.
9 years later. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting little backstage promos. Tito is over huge with the MSG crowd here, is he not?
Oh yes. Oh yeah, of course.
And it's
Tito.
Yeah, Tito Santana was over big time. He didn't really have the best interview backstage. There wasn't a lot of charisma there. He sounded kind of plain. But to me, this opening match to me says a lot about how far WrestleMania has come. So,
of course, yeah.
The opening match to WrestleMania is Tito Santana facing, just a masked jobber.
A random dude, yeah.
To help build his feud with the Intercontinental Champion, Greg the Hammer Valentine. So they've got this feud brewing, and rather than it happening at WrestleMania, the build continues at WrestleMania. Could you imagine that happening on today's day and age?
It wouldn't happen today. Yeah, I just think because it was so new at that time, they didn't know what to do with it yet, I guess. And
yeah, and it shows.
WrestleMania should be the end of the chapter, and they figured that out.
They did, of course. But like you said, this was brand new to them. But all right, so we're going to kick things off today with not today, but March 1st, 1985. We are going to kick things off with Tito Santana and the Executioner. They're going to go 4 minutes, 49 seconds. Like we said, Tito's over huge with the MSG crowd. We get a crisscross to start, a drop down, leap over, then a big drop kick from Tito, and the Executioner powders out. He keeps his word. He's going for the leg, but Tito's just kind of a house of fire earlier. He's not staying down. He goes for the Executioner in the corner when he kind of powders. Goes for a pile driver, but he eats a back body drop and a body slam. He tries to go up top, but he gets press slammed off the top, which is hilarious because it looked exactly like a Ric Flair spot, did it not?
Yeah, of course.
It was the iconic Ric Flair spot, which is funny when you consider that he was viewed by a lot of people kind of as the Ric Flair of the Northwest.
Irony. Yeah,
irony
very
right
nice.
There. Tito goes for a splash, and Executioner gets his knees up. He goes back to the leg. He's working him over. Santana boots him off of him and up and over the top rope, and then he takes him and body slams him from the apron back into the ring, flying forearm, and then gets the figure 4 for the submission win in 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Of course, he's using the figure 4 to send a message to his real rival here, Greg the Hammer Valentine. I'll be honest, this was a decent opening match.
Yeah, no, I really thought it was a good opening match.
I expected not to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, probably not. If you were just basing it off the promos backstage, yeah, I get it.
And not even just that, but it's just knowing like, hey, the Masked Executioner, you know in your head, we're starting WrestleMania off with a squash match. But they worked really well together, did they not?
Oh, yeah, they did. And it's sad because he didn't really stick around.
No, he really didn't.
Buddy Rose.
No, he really didn't. I'll look really quickly. I'm going to throw to the Google machine a lot during these shows.
I think like you were talking about the territories and everything, he was one of those guys that just jumped around. Yeah, so I think he was only there for like maybe a couple months, year.
Yeah, so let's see. He was there from 1982 to 1983, left, came back from 1984 to 1985, and that would be his last match.
Oh, well, there you go. Jeez.
Yeah, that'd be his last match until 1990 when he returned.
Oh.
But, I mean, still pretty cool that they made sure to feature him on the first WrestleMania, but not put him out there as Playboy Buddy Rose and have him job to make their guys look good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Tito Santana, he's a pretty good upper mid-card guy, I think. Like I said, a white-hot babyface with that crowd.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very good opening match. Drew,
well, and here's another thing, too, though. I think they did, like, a lot of tapings in Madison Square Garden before they even did WrestleMania.
Of course. Madison Square Garden was... I mean, there's a reason why WWF was called New York by guys inside the wrestling business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, I mean, that was another thing I was going to say. Part of why Vince wanted to hold this here is because of the WWF. New York and Madison Square Garden in general felt like home to Vince.
Yeah.
And therefore it felt like home to the WWF. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess in... there was a top 50 greatest moments in Madison Square Garden history list, and the main event of this evening, which we will get to later, was ranked number 30.
Just like moments in general, even outside of wrestling?
Yes, just moments in general. It was ranked the 30th best moment, which, you know, when you consider everything that's happened in Madison Square Garden, all the boxing events, all the basketball games, all the concerts, all this stuff, that's pretty tremendous that it's even on the list, especially because when you consider what the main event is.
It's pretty cool.
So we're gonna cut backstage to Lord Alfred Hayes setting up our next match: King Kong Bundy versus SD Special Delivery Jones. We get some more pre-taped interviews. SD's hyped up. He says they're gonna get down at WrestleMania. You know, he's shucking and jiving. He's real excited. King Kong Bundy comes in after Jimmy Hart, and King Kong Bundy is fucking huge.
Yeah, no, he was. He was.
Says, it makes sense. This is the biggest card in the history of professional wrestling, so I'm the biggest man in professional wrestling, and he says he wants a 5 count for his win tonight. Of course, this would be echoed years later in NXT with Big E Langston.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously, the iconic tribute, and it's kind of cool to see its origins here. What did you think of these backstage promos? I know you made comment to me earlier before we were recording about something that Lord Alfred Hayes said.
Oh man, yeah, Alfred Hayes. He's building SD Jones up a little bit, saying what a great star he is, great superstar. And Cal, how long did that match go?
Well, how long did it go, or how long did they tell us it went? Because there's a big discrepancy.
It went 25 seconds. They said it was 9 seconds.
Yeah.
And SD Jones lost. So what a great superstar.
So my thing is, they're talking about how big King Kong Bundy is. Jesse makes the comment they could use his back for a drive-in movie screen, and which they did a great job at over-exaggerating things back then.
Of course.
I want to say...
Hell, they still do now. They still do now.
Nothing compared to Gorilla.
Stupendous.
Yeah. But nothing compared to Gorilla and Jesse. I want to say there's like a cross-body later in the night in one of the matches. I can't remember which one. When we're actually reading up on the match, I'll remember. But there's like a cross-body, and actually it's our next match. But there's a cross-body, and Gorilla makes the comment, he jumped 15 feet across the ring! And like it was like the guy was like 5 feet from the corner. He barely jumped.
Was it Ricky Steamboat?
Yep, it was the Ricky Steamboat match, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But here is a breakdown of the entire match. SD bounces off the ropes. He's all excited. King Kong Bundy catches him with a bear hug, runs him into the corner, runs back, hits him with a huge avalanche in the corner. He drops down, and then a big splash. 1, 2, 3, and it's over in a reported 9 seconds, but an actual 25 seconds.
Yeah, it was 25 seconds.
Yeah. They're telling us that this is a new record here in Madison Square Garden. The old record, I can't remember.
They said last a long time.
But it was the old record in Madison Square Garden was 23 seconds, and he shattered it. No, he didn't.
Nah, didn't even beat it.
So here's a question: if the intention was for this match to break the record and go 9 seconds, because they reported as that, so that was clearly their plan. If that was their plan, what the fuck were these guys doing?
Yeah. You should be rushing to get it over with.
They wasted a lot of time here. I don't know if it was SD Jones wasting time on purpose or if they just didn't think a lot of it, but it was just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
There was no sense of urgency for something that's supposed to be 9 seconds.
Yeah.
The
maybe he wanted his little WrestleMania moment. Who knows?
Maybe. He didn't get it.
No.
The commentators, of course, are putting over how scary King Kong Bundy is and that this would have finished anyone. Of course, Bundy's going to go on to main event WrestleMania 2 against Hulk Hogan, and clearly they've already started building him up for that.
Yeah. That's probably what that was all about.
100%. They did a good job back then at building guys up just for Hogan to tear him down.
Yeah, good times.
So not a whole lot to say about this match. I
apologize, yeah.
I think King Kong Bundy would have been a lot happier if he was slamming the crap out of midgets. But he'll get to do that in 2 years. Don't worry, buddy. You'll get there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So we're going to cut backstage, and no Lord Alfred Hayes this time. They gave the poor guy a break. Gene Okerlund is going to interview Matt Bourne before his match with Ricky Steamboat. Bourne says Ricky's too nice. He's here to beat him up. Steamboat says he came here to develop his meanness. For those who don't know, Drew, who is Matt Bourne?
Oh, Doink the Clown.
That's right, the original Doink the Clown. Rest in peace, Matt Bourne. He died a number of years ago. But yes, the original Doink the Clown. Of course, that was a much more successful and popular character than Matt Bourne, also known as Matt Osborne. But this was an okay match. They're going to go 4 minutes, 39 seconds. The one thing I wanted to bring up here, Steamboat looks incredible.
Yeah.
He was probably on a very good cycle back then, shall we say.
Uh-oh.
He looked absolutely in some of the best physical shape you'll see him in here at WrestleMania 1. Yeah, so Ricky Steamboat taking on the future Doink the Clown. This is before he was being called the Dragon in WWF. Of course, they're really pushing that he's a karate guy. So every strike he does, they're calling karate strikes. You know, we've got a feeling out process early, chops and strikes. Ricky works a headlock early. When Bourne tries to get out of it, he looks like he's going for a back suplex. Steamboat flips up and over and reapplies the headlock. It happens again. Ricky flips over again, lifts him up, and hits him with an atomic drop. He counters the next headlock with a... Bourne counters the next headlock with a reverse atomic drop, starts working over Ricky. There's an interesting moment in the corner. Bourne has Ricky in the corner, and Ricky kind of lifts his legs up, catches his head with his head scissors, and then just kind of gets him, like, swings down with a boot to the shoulder. I thought that was actually pretty cool looking. We get some big chops and back to the headlock. So one thing that I think Ricky does great in this match, he does a great job of working the headlock and kind of telling a story with it in the match. He's working on him. He's out wrestling him, you know?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, Bourne finally takes over when he takes a cheap shot and gets a big belly-to-belly and then a vertical suplex, but only a kick out at one because he doesn't cover him correctly, as Jesse has been sure to remind us. Steamboat, of course, they trade strikes. Steamboat takes over, back suplex, and a big swinging neck breaker, which Gorilla called a reverse neck breaker. I don't know what a reverse neck breaker is. Drew, do you have any idea? Can you fill people in?
Is it NKO? I don't know. The Nick Ice finisher?
Yeah, I don't know what a reverse neck breaker is. I've never even heard that term.
I don't know.
But a nice swinging neck breaker from Ricky Steamboat. Knee drops to the head, a kick out at 2, and then Steamboat with a huge crossbody, 15 feet across the ring, and gets the pin to win this match. They go 4 minutes, 39 seconds. Ricky Steamboat gets the win. I didn't hate it. I liked it. I liked it for what it was. Ricky Steamboat, obviously one of the better workers of all time, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. He could be in the ring with really anybody.
Absolutely, of course.
Fantastic.
Eventually, we will be covering WrestleMania 3, I'm sure, and he is one half of the first great match in WrestleMania history, as people like to call it. When it comes to Ricky Steamboat, what do you think his legacy is in professional wrestling?
Yeah, probably like you were saying, just really good worker, probably a good wrestling mind. You know, they just put on really good matches, but I don't think he was ever world champ, was he?
He was in the NWA. He had that
okay.
The trilogy of matches with Ric Flair.
That's not the real world title.
Hey, listen, brother. The NWA world title was the real world title back in the day, and we all know it.
Yeah. But yeah, just good worker.
Absolutely.
Good guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good character.
Yeah, he, like we said, he's never a strong talker, but man, was he a hell of a worker. And I think the other legacy that he has is the ultimate babyface.
Oh, yeah. Just guys like him and Rey Mysterio, really pulled off. Just ultimate baby faces. Both guys I don't think I could ever see as a heel, honestly.
No, absolutely not. That was what I was going to say is, can you imagine seeing either of those two heel?
I can't.
Yeah, Ricky Steamboat is the ultimate babyface to me.
Yeah. But I will say about Matt and Ricky's backstage promo, that was probably the more kind of weirder ones. Yeah. It seemed like it was probably the most weird one of all of them.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. You know, you've got him talking about how Ricky's too nice. He's going to beat him up. And Steamboat says he came here to develop his meanness. We'll kick his ass.
He's right here.
Develop that meanness. He's right here. Kick his ass.
Yeah, I didn't like the formula of that whole backstage promo stuff. Yeah. Weird.
So speaking of the backstage promo that I didn't like,
Oh.
and the one that really caught me
it
off
gets
guard,
worse. Oh, okay.
Lord Alfred Hayes sets up Brutus Beefcake, a.k.a. soon-to-be Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake, taking on David Sammartino. Of course, Lord Alfred Hayes is putting over Bruno Significant. There's a really funny and awkward moment where Bourne's trying to leave, but he realizes that they're filming, and he kind of stops walking and looks down and walks behind Alfred.
Yeah, that whole setup, like we were saying, was just weird.
I felt bad for him because there's also
stuff and then
also moments where he's trying to talk and like heels will be making their entrances and start trash talking him.
Oh, like Bobby Heenan said something to him, didn't he?
I believe
somebody
he did. I know Greg Valentine did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Johnny guy.
Yep. Johnny Valiant, which is who we're gonna get to. So, we come out. We get cut back again to a pre-taped interview with Mean Gene Okerlund. David Sammartino saying what goes around comes around. And, Bruno saying that Johnny Valiant needs to better not be sticking his nose into this match. They walk away, and Johnny Valiant comes in. They're very plain and drab. Bruno shows a little bit of emotion, but David looks completely uncomfortable.
Oh, man.
Johnny Valiant comes in, and he is fired up. Says he'll stick his nose wherever he wants, and he's going off, and he says, "Tell him, Brutus." And Brutus just kind of growls, and then or like snarls or something, and then he says, "No, I'm not going to let him talk. I'll do the talking for him." Continues going on. This was an absolute fucking train wreck.
Yeah.
I hated this. It was. And then you've got the whole, I'll stick my nose wherever I want.
Oh.
He showed up like 2 seconds after Bruno said this. They would improve on this later on. If they were nearby when this interview was happening, 2 years later even, Valiant would have come in. They would have had people separating them. But here it's just weird. It really is. I can't even put it another way. It's just weird. And it's a wild contrast in the promos. You've got, David has no charisma, barely says anything. And then the other guy, his manager does all the talking but barely breathes between words.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, pretty bad.
And speaking of pretty bad, let's get to the match.
Yeah, I mean, I guess real quick I'll say, good for Bruno's son that he could say that he was part of the first Mania, but oh my. Oh my.
Yeah, this so we got Bruno Sammartino accompanying David Sammartino to the ring, and Johnny Valiant, luscious Johnny Valiant, accompanying Brutus Beefcake to the ring. They're going to go 11 minutes, 43 seconds. When Bruno comes out...
above 6 minutes. There you go.
Bruno...
Because these first 3 matches have been very short.
Yeah. Very, very different approaches here as far as time. I'm pretty sure that this match alone went longer than the other 3 matches so far of the night combined.
Yeah, I was going to say that. All combined.
Yeah, the other thing is Bruno is easily the most over guy on the entire card, course. Even more so than Hulk Hogan, I think.
And he wasn't active anymore.
But at the same time, this is just coming years after his retirement. Bruno is synonymous with New York and Madison Square Garden. I feel like people today don't understand the significance of Bruno Sammartino.
No, yeah, probably not. Just because we're in the modern day and things are just different now. But yeah, back then, different time and everything. Yeah, he was a big deal.
He was a huge deal here. The commentators are pointing out to us how similar David is to Bruno. They're really trying to push him to the crowd.
Oh.
You can tell Vince, even then, kind of like tried to push agendas. They were really trying to push David here, probably as a favor to Bruno. We've got lots of stalling to get the match going. Johnny is slowly taking off Brutus's entrance gear. The ref's threatening to count him out. The commentators even pointed out But Brutus has the most unique looking gear of the night.
Yeah.
Everybody else has plain colored tights or trunks or singlets, and maybe they have their name on it in pretty plain font. But Brutus has he's got black, and then he's got I think it was pink or purple squares with little black emblems all over them. Like a really unique gear for Brutus compared to the rest of the card.
Yeah, good for him. He made himself stand out.
Yep. Too bad he wasn't any fucking good. So,
well,
this is a very slow-paced match.
Yeah.
There's lots of chain wrestling. David keeps finding ways to make Brutus slip and fall on his face and look dumb. Johnny Valiant's yelling to the ref that David's clearly greased, which David doesn't even look like he's sweating. So, just good heel stuff here. Making excuses. He's getting caught in more chain holds. Brutus gets kind of heated when a rope break isn't immediately upheld. He's threatening the ref. He finally counters a hold into a body slam, but David rolls through and holds onto the arm. And I will be 100% honest, up until the finish, that was my favorite part of the match.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't blame you.
There
wasn't much else to it.
No, there's not a lot. David controls pretty much the entire time. The pace will quicken throughout, but then a guy will take over and immediately go back to holds. That's the entire match. Guy gets a hold. He gets out of it. They'll kind of trade strikes. They'll picking it up, and then the other guy will get a hold. We got a lot of David working the leg here. Every time Brutus will kick him off, David sweeps the leg out from underneath him. Clearly was meant to be a student of Cobra Kai, and he'll just go right back to the leg each time. Finally, Brutus rakes the eyes with his little forearm covers with the ties on them. I don't know. Of course, Gorilla and Jesse are debating the legality of this. Brutus takes over some big slams and some forearms. David finally fights back, lands a big body drop. They get up. They have a back and forth. David's teeing off. Big vertical suplex. Kick out at 2. Brutus cuts him off with a headbutt to the gut. Throws him out. He takes a body slam, he being David, pronouns pal.
Pal.
He takes a body slam from Johnny. Bruno attacks, and it devolves into a huge brawl in the ring. Bruno and David clear house to a huge pop. But then the double disqualification ruling gets announced. So after 11 minutes, 43 seconds of rest holds and occasional big moves, we get a double disqualification, and the crowd is booing. They're pissed. In fairness to them, Brutus should have been the one disqualified. We don't have a really good camera angle, but from what we can tell, the referee clearly had to have been looking when Johnny slammed David.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's not like it was quick either.
No, it was a very slow body slam.
That bump on the concrete, Jesus.
Yeah, that was a pretty big bump by David. I'll give him credit. But yeah,
his dues, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. I'm going to tell you what, man. This was easily my least favorite match of the night. Was it yours? And if not, have we already seen it? And if not, you can tell me once we get to it.
Oh, man.
But to me, this was easily my least favorite match of the entire card.
Yeah. I enjoyed the bump on the concrete. It was kind of cringe, but give him credit. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean,
but
good for
other
him
than
for taking
that,
it, but
not much to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutus should have just been disqualified here. It was kind of weak. But yeah, not a lot else to say. I really, really just did not care for this. I had a tough time watching it and was kind of happy when it was over. Of course, Bruno over with the crowd. That kind of brought a smile to my face. But
yeah, that was really cool.
But Drew, do you know what's next?
Uh-oh.
Do you know what's after this?
Is it IRS?
It's fucking Lord Alfred Hayes. And he's setting up the Intercontinental title match. It's going to be Greg the Hammer Valentine, and he's taking on the undefeated Junkyard Dog. Valentine walks by with Jimmy Hart for his entrance while Lord Alfred Hayes is talking. And as you see him in the background getting close to the ring, there is a huge amount of boos. Greg Valentine really hated by this crowd. We cut to backstage interview. Valentine says tonight we're going to find out why he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, why he's the master of the figure four, and why they call him Hammer. And, Junkyard Dog says he needs to find himself a bone to chew, and he's going to have plenty when he gets in the ring. So we get out there. Junkyard Dog makes his entrance, and on Peacock, you pointed out that you were pretty sure his theme song was dubbed over. Based off the crowd reaction, I do think he had music play, but I think they did dub over it.
I think I always heard it was another one bites the dust or something. I don't know.
That might have been the case.
I don't know if
it is very clearly dubbed.
Yeah.
It might have been. We could probably look that up. But, Junkyard Dog gets a big presentation for his entrance. Crowd's into him. Junkyard Dog immediately, as soon as this match happens, by the way, this is the Intercontinental title match. It's going to go 6 minutes, 55 seconds. Fun little trivia fact. The next match, which is also a title match, is going to go 6 minutes and 55 seconds.
Back to the short matches.
Yep. But, we've got the match starts off. Hammer's immediately powdering in the corner. Hammer tries for a cheap shot. Junkyard Dog catches the arm, starts working him over. He takes over, and Valentine goes for a forearm drop, but he misses, and Junkyard Dog immediately goes into his signature headbutts. Junkyard Dog, easily one of the coolest and most fun characters to watch of all time. And it's funny because the hardcore fans today that love him when they go back and watch him, I guarantee would hate him if he came out today in the WWE.
Oh, of course. Yeah, maybe it just fit the time, him doing his stuff and all that, but yeah, they probably wouldn't like him now. I don't know.
And here we go with me pissing off the hardcore wrestling fans again.
Here we go again.
If AEW did it, though, it'd be praised as genius. Just saying.
You're right. Yeah.
So anyway, after the headbutts, they're going to have a knuckle lock. He tries working him over. Junkyard Dog's using his strength to get himself out, but Hammer gets some cheap shots, starts working the leg because he's trying to set up the figure four. Your favorite move, the leg DDT from Valentine. Junkyard Dog's fighting to get up, but Hammer keeps working him over. He gets booted off after Junkyard Dog gets the crowd into it. He's up. They trade strikes in the corner. Junkyard Dog drops Hammer and delivers a huge headbutt, which results in a Flair-like flop. It's kind of funny. A lot of the heels back then did it, but Flair was kind of the master of the flop. And I think it's because
he made it popular.
He made it popular, and I think it's because of how much theater he put into it, right? Like where he would charge out of the corner first.
Yeah. Of course.
One thing I want to say, Greg Valentine, amazing heel and a great worker.
Yeah. Oh, he is. He's your buddy Ryback's favorite wrestler. So great worker. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That might be surprising, but yeah.
See, I swear I messaged him about his favorite wrestlers the other week, and I don't remember seeing that name on the list.
Oh, really? That's weird.
I might have not noticed it because he sent a big list. Regardless.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, so we get the Flair-like flop. Hart distracts the referee. Junkyard Dog goes after him. Of course, that results in Valentine going for a cheap shot, but Junkyard Dog knows it's coming, turns away, and Jimmy Hart ends up eating it and goes to the floor. I've been listening to 83 Weeks a lot, so I learned from Eric Bischoff. Do you know why Jimmy Hart was out here for this match? It's the same reason why he was out in any time you see him.
To take a bump or something? Take some kind of hit?
No, it's because he knew that camera's red light was on and he would be seen.
Oh, man.
Jimmy Hart.
Jeez.
Watch him. Yeah. If you watch some WCW Nitro in the 90s, Jimmy Hart loved getting himself on camera. I love Jimmy Hart as a manager.
He's entertaining.
He was entertaining as hell.
If he was like Bruno's son, then yeah, we would have a problem. But he's entertaining.
Yeah, he does a great job, and of course he's one of the better heel managers of all time. You know, he's got that hot voice, baby. Mouth of the South, and he still talks like that today.
Yeah, he does.
You know, of course, Hart ends up eating the cheap shot, but Valentine with a rake to the eyes, and he gets a 3 count with his feet on the ropes. But that's not the ending, folks. Valentine takes off, but Tito Santana comes out dressed in a nice dress shirt and dress pants, and he tells the referee that the Hammer had his feet on the ropes, which results in the referee continuing the match. Hammer is seething, and the referee counts him out. So we've got a count out here. Greg Valentine's going to lose. Junkyard Dog is going to keep his undefeated streak going, but Greg Valentine is going to keep his Intercontinental title here. Again, kind of relates to what we talked about in the first match. This was setting up a match later on down the road. But if you viewed this as a setup match, if this was not on a WrestleMania, if this was on a, what was the show called back then? The Wrestling Challenge, or if this was even on a Saturday night's main event, or you know, all the different shows they had back then, because they had quite a few classic shows back then. This is on any of those that would have been fine. In the history of WrestleMania, it feels weird. Yeah,
it does. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I guess I get it. WrestleMania was new at the time, so.
Oh, absolutely. This was a decent match. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay.
It was still good.
It was still good, but nothing special here. You know, we get a lot of words exchanged.
Jimmy Hart taking the bump on the concrete. That was special.
That was special.
I feel like you aren't giving these guys enough credit.
You know what?
Taking those big bumps.
I'll give him credit. That was a pretty big bump, and props to Jimmy Hart.
Yeah. I used to do those too. Woo!
Yeah, before the announcement is officially made about the count out, we're clearly setting up Tito Santana and Greg Valentine. We've got a lot of words exchanged here between the men. Jimmy and Greg Valentine are, of course, seething and they're mad. But Junkyard Dog with a huge celebration. This was covered pretty heavily on radio and television, the Junkyard Dog celebrating his victory. But yeah, decent match. We're going to go backstage to poor Lord Alfred Hayes again. He sets up our tag team titles match. It's going to be Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham, the U.S. Express. Of course, I believe were they brother-in-laws or cousins in real life?
He was married to Barry's sister and still is.
He was married to Barry's sister. That's right. Of course, Mike Rotundo, who we covered last week as Mike Wall Street. Yeah. Drew, we didn't openly say it, but I think you and I were on the same page about something that was said last week. Do you want to say it?
Yeah, the whole, when we were talking about his name being Michael Wall Street, is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess I come to realize that that's actually his middle name, Michael.
Yeah, we were like, oh, they're calling him that because of Michael Douglas in the Wall Street movie. Yeah. No, it's just his name's fucking Mike.
Yeah, that's just his name. Yeah.
I think it's funny how you and I were both thinking that when we had watched. But
there's an interesting connection, but yeah.
But it didn't. No, what's funny to me is that you and I both thought, oh crap, we literally just said this last week, and neither one of us messaged each other to tell the other one, oh hey, when you watch this. But yeah, they're the U.S. Express. They're going to be defending the tag team titles against Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik, the former WWF champion. They're accompanied by Freddie Blassie. Of course, Sheik calls him Gene Mean. Freddie Blassie says he's standing with the next tag team champions. Gene says he's going to talk to Nikolai next, and he says, all right, comrade.
Yeah, that's funny. That was good.
That was pretty good.
Whoops.
Sheik goes crazy, yelling at the cameraman as we cut off. Lou Albano is accompanying the tag team champions. He's talking about his tag team champions, Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this match also goes 6 minutes, 55 seconds. We start off being introduced to the challengers, and Volkov sings the Soviet national anthem, not the Russian national anthem, the Soviet national anthem. So that's how long ago this was. And of course, huge boos.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not earning themselves any favors with this one, but that was exactly the point. The traditional foreign heels. We get a big pop for our tag team champions, the U.S. Express and Captain Lou. Drew, was it just me, or did the camera cut back to them early? It looked like they were waiting for their cue for a good 5 seconds before they started walking.
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't even notice. You're probably right.
Anybody who goes back and watch this, I swear to you, man, they are waiting for their cue. I think the camera cut to them too early.
Oh, man.
You're
probably right. But here's a little trivia on Mike Rotundo. He actually turned 27 years old the day before this WrestleMania.
Wow. Nice little factoid there, Drew. I like it.
Yeah, so he'd be our age at WrestleMania. Unbelievable.
And you
just the day after.
And you just may be depressed. Way to go, man.
Yeah, well, what are we doing with our lives?
We've got a podcast that barely anybody listens to.
I love it. It's okay. I think Big Whiskey might bring in the big views. Who knows?
Yeah. So, one thing I wanted to say, Sheik has very unique looking gear here. I think he might outdo Brutus with the unique looking gear and those boots. Iron Sheik had some iconic boots.
Oh, of course,
the toe. Another thing, Sheik was in tremendous shape.
Oh, man. Yeah, he was.
He looked great here. Of course, honestly, all these guys look great. Volkov was never a lean guy by any means, of course. He was kind of pale and just a bigger guy in general. I want to say it said he was 303 pounds. Volkov was a big guy.
Yeah. Oh, he's a real big, thick guy. Yeah, definitely. He stood out.
Yeah, this is a very fast-paced match. Sheik's bumping his ass off early. Windham gets isolated and double team. He ducks down, which causes Sheik to drop kick Volkov, which it caught me by surprise seeing the Iron Sheik doing a fucking drop kick.
Yeah, those are the days, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, he knocks him off the apron, but Volkov's pretty much right back up and gets tagged in. So, I kind of have to say something watching this. I feel bad almost saying that the guys in AEW do a terrible job selling nowadays, because look at these fucking guys in the 80s.
Ooh.
Drop kick off the apron and Volkov's right back up and tagged in.
Oh, man. I noticed that was somebody during WrestleMania. Yeah. Might have been him, too. Just got up right away. It's like, what?
Yeah. Rotundo's going to get tagged in.
It goes back to Bruno's son taking the bump on the concrete, and then he's back in the ring.
Yeah, he definitely got to slow down. So, it's well known. I and we talked about it on my podcast with Jared. I did a brief little bit of wrestling training, and one thing that was hammered into our heads is, if you think, and if you listen to any pro wrestlers talk about this kind of stuff, they'll tell you, if you think you're going too slow, slow down some more. That's something that's been said. Like, if you think you're moving too slow, slow down a little bit more, because you need to let the crowd soak up the action.
Yeah, there's no rush.
And that's one thing to say for this entire show. Obviously, they're trying to get all these matches in 2 hours and 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's just go, go, go. It's similar to an AEW show nowadays.
Yeah, and again, I just think it was a new thing at the time, and they kind of learned as they went.
Absolutely.
And they got better.
Yeah, so but Rotundo takes over. We get the baby faces with frequent tags and double team moves for a minute. Sheik gets in. Yeah. He takes over on Rotundo. Big back body drop and a gut wrench suplex. Both of those get him a 2 count each. Rotundo counters with a vertical suplex to a 1 count of his own. Volkov gets tagged in. beats him up, but a sunset flip by Rotundo. Volkov stays in control. Blassie and Albano kind of have some words at ringside. Sheik with my favorite, the abdominal stretch.
Oh yeah.
He gets hip tossed to get out of it, and we get the hot tag. Wyndham's a house of fire. He takes it to Volkov, but Sheik breaks up a pin. And then with the referee distracted, Kane to the back of Wyndham's head because he's dealing with Rotundo. The ref is, and Volkov gets the pin. It's your standard old school heel tag team match, and in 6 minutes 55 seconds, Freddie Blassie's prediction comes through. We have new tag team champions. Fans are throwing garbage into the ring, I noticed. Monsoon and Ventura, as we pan out, are talking about how stunned the fans are in the arena. Drew, what do you rate this match? How'd you like it?
This is probably, honestly, my favorite match of the whole night, to be honest. It was pretty good.
Look at this.
Got some legends in there.
Look at this. Yeah. We are in agreement. This was by far my favorite match of the night. I loved it.
Oh, there you go.
I loved this match.
Imagine that.
It made me want to go back and watch some old Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
Oh. Yeah, just two guys that are like students of the game. Just really good.
Yeah, they're classic heels, of course. We get backstage.
But good workers, yeah.
Phenomenal workers. Like I said, Sheik hit that drop kick, and it caught me by surprise. It showed me how behind I was, which it's kind of funny. I went to WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. My dad lives in Florida, so it was kind of a 2-for-1 trip. We went down to see him, and then myself, my brother, and my dad went to WrestleMania together. And my dad wore an Iron Sheik t-shirt.
Oh boy, he probably got booed.
Oh no, he got big reactions from people. We had multiple people stop him and say, "That shirt is so awesome." Iron Sheik is, of course, a legend of the business, and people love him nowadays.
Yeah, it's funny. He used to be hated, and people just got respect for him.
And that's the thing that
just
happens.
How good he is.
That's what happens with these legends, honestly. They spend enough time in the business, and you can only hate these guys for so long when they are just absolute legends and titans of the industry.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, so we come backstage. Gene Okerlund's interviewing them, Blassie and the new tag team champs. He asks Blassie where his cane is, and Blassie says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a cane." And of course, Sheik says, "Iran and Russia are number one, and they came to America to prove it. America, hak, puh."
Always great.
Legendary quote. And then we cut to our man, Lord Alfred Hayes, who is really stumbling over his words here.
Oh, man.
He's setting up Andre the Giant and Big John Studd. He says, Big John Studd says, "I am the only true champion, Giant." And Andre says, I am the Giant. He's really struggling to get this out. Big John Studd and Bobby Heenan, which, by the way, I'm noticing when going back over my notes, because I was typing this on my phone while watching. Big John Studd was auto-corrected to Big John Stuff about 4 times.
Of course.
So Big John Stuff is going to take in, and Bobby Heenan are, so Big John Studd and Bobby Heenan are putting $15,000 on the line to prove he's the one true Giant. Andre has to retire if he loses. This is a body slam challenge. So if Andre doesn't body slam him, he has to retire. If he wins, he gets $15,000. Heenan says only 3 people are going to see this money: him, Studd, and the people at the bank.
Yeah.
Very good promo here. I really liked Big John Studd. And once again, we're covering Bobby the fucking Brain Heenan.
A constant theme here on Wrestling the Past. Bobby Heenan.
And I absolutely love it. I love it. Bobby was amazing here. He and Studd probably had my favorite promo of the night here.
Yeah. Well, they definitely did the best backstage of everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Jesse Ventura says we're seeing the greatest spectacle in the history of wrestling right now as we are introducing Studd and Heenan. Andre comes out to an enormous pop, not quite as loud as Bruno, but pretty close. Of course, Andre probably got an even bigger pop than Hulk Hogan tonight. Andre was insanely popular in this day and age, in this day, I should say. But we're going to get the match going. Gorilla says, this feels like a pretty one-sided bet, but Jesse, playing devil's advocate, said, he agreed to it, Gorilla.
Yeah.
This is a pretty one-sided match.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to go 5 minutes, 53 seconds.
Yeah. Made the fans happy.
Yep, you can tell Andre here is kind of getting down to his time where he's originally planning on retiring, I think. He's having trouble moving around. It's just a lot of chops and big strikes. No real bumps from Andre. We've got, Andre slamming his backside into Stud in the corner. He's choking Stud on the ropes, and the referee does nothing about it.
Yeah.
Referee's not calling rope breaks on holds, and Jesse's even kind of bringing that up. Andre sets up a backdrop at one point, but Stud tries to kick him. But Andre catches it and lifts his head up and just shakes his head and is smiling. It was a fake out by Andre, which I thought was interesting. You don't really see that too often. He starts throwing some awkward looking leg kicks, but again, Andre is a giant man and he was in a lot of pain at this point. Works even better than you would expect, to be honest. More strikes in the corner, and then Andre gets the body slam to end the match and win $15,000. Huge ovation. Andre's throwing money to the fans, but Heenan, that weasel, he runs in from behind, steals the bag, and runs off. Great heel work from Heenan and Stud here. Obviously not a great match. It really is just a spectacle. It's two big men going at it. Very slow match. I still liked this more than David and Brutus, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, it was better, and it was a feel-good moment. I think that's basically all it was.
And that's exactly what it was. That's fine. A feel-good moment. It was a spectacle, and, it's kind of ironic to think the spectacle of this WrestleMania with Andre is him body slamming Big John Studd, and 2 years later, the spectacle is going to be Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant.
Spoiler alert! Jeez.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, sorry.
No, a little passing of the torch.
Yeah.
2 years later. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. We get backstage after a minute, and Gene's interviewing Andre. Andre said he doesn't care that he didn't get the money. He just wanted to prove that he can kill the Giant, and I'm not ready to retire. So, Drew.
No, I'm not ready. No.
I have a question for you. Are you ready for this? I'm going to hit you with a hard one.
Boy. Oh, no.
Is Andre the Giant more important to the history of professional wrestling and the WWF than Hulk Hogan? This is a heavily debated topic.
Oh, God. I mean, I think they both had their place, obviously. I would probably lean towards no, because I think Hogan kind of put them over the top.
That's fair. A lot of people have made the argument over the years that WrestleMania 3 was really made because of Andre and not the other way around, which then made Hogan an even giant or more giant star.
I see.
We can debate that further at another time if we decide to cover WrestleMania 3 at some point, which I know we will. It's labeled the first great WrestleMania, so we'll continue that conversation later.
Well, I mean, that definitely helped. I mean, if that moment didn't happen, who knows? Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, so Lord Alfred Hayes up next sets up the ladies' title match. So it's not the women's title, it's the ladies' title match. How weird is it, Drew, that the 80s, when women kind of had a lot less respect than they did in the 2000s, if we're being honest, just in America in general, it's being called the ladies' title, but in the mid-2000s is when we have the Divas title.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Cyndi Lauper is going to be at ringside. She was taught by Lou Albano how to be a manager. Richter says she only lost the title because of Moolah, and she's dead set on getting it back. Moolah has these goofy-looking glasses on with the dollar signs on them. Gene asks her where she got the glass. He goes, "My goodness, where did you get those glasses?" And she says her jeweler made them because he's proud of her and her champion, Leilani Kai. Gene says, "Don't tell Jesse Ventura about him." Kai says she's going to do whatever it takes to leave with her championship. So Wendy Richter versus Leilani Kai. Wendy with Cyndi Lauper at her side. Leilani Kai with Fabulous Moolah. Of course, Lord Alfred Hayes. It's the first of our Wrestle Rock Connection matches.
Yeah.
So big boost for Moolah, and we get a huge pop for Richter and Lauper. Lauper's manager, David Wolf, is at ringside. Ventura says he needs to get a haircut. And then Gorilla randomly makes the comment that Ventura's tux is out of this world, which is fitting for WrestleMania. We have a fast-paced start here. The trading holds. Richter has her in a hammerlock and kind of spins her in the air and slams her down on the mat twice. And then Jesse makes the comment he's seen her bench press in excess of 200 pounds, and he knows guys that can't do that. That is impressive when you look at her size. I'd believe it. She was pretty strong, but who knows? Of course, Leilani Kai is using the hair to her advantage. We've got a lot of old school wrestling stuff here. She's continuing to pull the hair when the ref can't see, but then starts deliberately pulling Richter's hair in full view of the ref, starts choking her as well. Richter squeezes a body scissors hold from the bottom, but Kai lifts her up by the hair, and we get a really weak double leg takedown from Richter. It was probably the worst looking spot of the match.
Yeah.
And she gets a 2 count from that. A small package takeover into a pin, and it gets her 2 count. Kai uses the hair for a snapmare. Take back over. Richter cuts her off in the corner with a double boot stomp. And then after a pin attempt, she shoves the ref out of the way. It's getting heated. Moolah pulls Richter out of the ring, but Lauper makes the save. And then Richter eats a big boot to the stomach, which before one of the next moves, that big boot by Leilani Kai to the stomach was probably one of the better looking parts of this match, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought the same thing.
Great bump by Richter here. And then at one point, Richter is going to set her up for the airplane spin, and they're hyping it up, but instead she just kind of tosses her down almost in the reverse fashion of an AA. Instead of throwing her, by the head over, she pushes the head back towards the legs and throws her down. So kind of a unique move for the women at the time. Gets a 2 count. Kai cuts her off in the corner, gets a 2 count with a backbreaker. Big body slam, and she goes up top and hits Richter with a cross body, but a little bit of a slow roll through, and Richter gets the 3 count and the ladies championship. Lauper decks Moolah. Moolah trips trying to get into the ring, which I think was intentional. Richter celebrates with Lauper and David Wolf to a huge ovation, and they're dancing in the ring and taunting Moolah and Kai. Jesse tells Gorilla that Wendy got lucky that Kai kind of overdid it on the crossbody. What do you think of the match, Drew?
I think it was fine. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wasn't spectacular or anything, but I think it was good. It was okay.
I think especially for the time it was very good. Like we mentioned, they got 6 minutes 14 seconds here, and it was good for the time. Of course, women's wrestling has evolved exponentially since then.
Oh man. Yeah, with them wearing their swimsuits and stuff.
Yeah.
During this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Definitely grown a lot since then. We get Gene Okerlund interviewing Wendy Richter, who says Gene caught her at the happiest moment of her life. It took 2 of them to get her title back because it took 2 to take it away from her. Cyndi Lauper calls Leilani Kai Lonnie Fi.
Yeah. I don't know.
And
watch, I guess.
She said she was watching Moolah and she brought her towel with her because she knew Moolah was bigger with her, which, what the fuck? Okay. I don't know what a towel is going to do. This is a weird little, but kind of a fun, that the mainstream appeal. For WrestleMania. All right, so we said it was a fine match, but here we go. It's time to set the stage for the main event. Howard Finkel announces
Hold on, before we do that.
Okay, sorry.
Jesse the Body had a great line that I really liked.
Okay.
At some point during the show, I think it was kind of early on, said something like, WrestleMania is to wrestling what Woodstock was to rock and roll.
Yes.
I really like
And you know what's funny is there was no guarantee that was going to be true, but it ended up being so true.
So, yeah, even Jesse was taking a risk by saying something like that. So, yeah cool.
Yeah, pretty good prediction there by Jesse, honestly. So, yeah, Howard Finkel's announcing that the main event will be starting soon, and he's introducing the guest ring announcer, former Yankees manager Billy Martin. Of course, he gets a huge pop here in New York. Martin struggles to put his glasses on so he can read from his paper.
He was nervous, damn it.
Hey, I'm just calling it like it is. I know he was nervous. He introduces our officials for the match. Guest timekeeper Liberace, who dances with showgirls in the middle of the ring. He keeps going long after they're ready to stop. He's having the time of his life. Of course, the picture of Liberace dancing and doing the kicks with the showgirls is one of the more iconic pictures from WrestleMania 1.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Classic. Next out is our special referee for our special outside referee, Muhammad Ali. Again, do a huge ovation.
Oh, man.
Muhammad Ali, we're probably not going to have a lot of time to talk about him in the future, but, man, one of the greatest boxers of all time and an absolute icon of sports in general, and you could tell he loved wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And our special referee for the main event inside the ring is going to be Pat Patterson, the first ever Intercontinental Champion. This match is going to be one fall with a 1 hour time limit. And then we hear the bagpipe band coming out. They're playing Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff to the ring, Mr. Wonderful. They are accompanied by Cowboy Bob Orton. Pretty cool entrance here for them. But then Real American comes on to a pretty decent pop. We see Hulk Hogan and Mr. T backstage. They're coming out with Jimmy Snuka. Eek. Of course, we all know, and if you don't know I'm saying that, look it up. Jimmy Snuka was an icon at the time, though. When they get to the ring, the referees struggle to hold all six back from getting into it before the bell. Hogan rips Mr. T's shirt off for him, and they're, honestly, every person in this match looks incredible physically.
Oh, man. And yeah, especially Mr. T.
Mr. T looked phenomenal.
Yeah, all of them.
People are mixed. A lot of, the wrestling outlets were mixed back then on Mr. T. A lot of people said he looked terrible out there. Others said he held his own. What did you think of Mr. T in this match?
Well, I think they said something like he was an amateur wrestler at one point. Is that true?
I don't know. He might have been.
But, I mean, just overall, WrestleMania as a whole, they made the celebrities look really good, but without making the wrestlers look like a joke at the same time.
Of course.
I think they pulled it off. Yeah.
They really did.
Mr. T did good.
One thing I noticed is Liberace is just watching all this unfold, and he is just cracking up while he's waiting to ring the bell. I think he was having the time of his life. I really do.
Oh, it's great.
It was fun to see. Piper Orndorff and Orton hug, and then after the bell ring, Liberace lifts up a special little jeweled bell in his hand and starts ringing it. I thought that was fun because, Liberace was known for his fashion and his accessories back then. But our main event is officially underway. It's chaotic. There's a lot going on in this match. Believe it or not, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated labeled this. So like I said, a lot of people were mixed. A lot of the news outlets or wrestling outlets back then, the publications, were very mixed on how they felt. Others hated it. Some liked it. Some thought Mr. T was okay. Some thought he was garbage and didn't belong in there. Pro Wrestling Illustrated gave it Match of the Year.
Oh, really?
1985.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Like I said, it's chaotic. We've got a lot of we got a lot of stuff. We start off with Paul Orndorff and Hogan kicking things off. Paul looks timid.
Yeah.
Piper gets the tag in to face off with Hogan, and Mr. T wants in. The crowd's chanting, and Hulk, working the crowd, points to T. Hogan makes the tower to a huge pop, and then the iconic clip. Piper and T get nose to nose in a heated face-off, And then they exchange slaps after Mr. T tells Piper he'd like to tell him about his mother.
Yes, of course. Of course. My mother.
But yeah, they exchange slaps, kick to the gut from Piper and a takedown. He's holding him down. T eventually gets out. Piper's seething. They tie up, an immediate push off. T lifts Piper up into a fireman's carry, which is another iconic clip. Picture from WrestleMania 1 is him holding him up in that fireman's carry. And then Mr. T would invent the wasteland for Wade Barrett.
Oh, man, is that true?
I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know that he invented the move, but I don't know if you noticed that or not, but he kind of did the potato sack drop to Piper there.
Yeah, that's cool.
After that, all four men get in the ring, and they're brawling. Ali gets into the ring. We devolve into absolute chaos. Piper takes a swing at Piper, Ali takes a swing at Piper, and then Orton when he tries climbing in. Piper calls for timeout, and they start heading up the ramp. They're out of here. Pat Patterson's counting them out. Hogan cuts him off, and he gets to the rope, and he does his iconic, come on in here. They work their way back with security escorting them back. All four men are in the ring. Mr. T and Hogan both deliver meeting of the minds to the heels here. And then we've got an atomic drop from Hogan to Piper, and then he starts slamming his head off the mat. And Jesse's mentioning that the referee's doing nothing about it. He's distracted. T and Hogan with a double clothesline to Piper, and Piper jumps in the air to take the bump. T body slams Piper and then hip tosses Orndorff. Piper and Hogan trade punches, and then Hogan big boots him over the top rope. Orndorff sends Hogan over with a clothesline from behind. And then Piper hits Hogan with a chair. Referees are trying to maintain order, but they just can't. And then Piper and Orndorff start working over hurt Hogan. Patterson's busy dealing with T, and the heels hit a double atomic drop on him. Orndorff stomping all over Hogan, and he's desperate for a tag. Suplex by Paul to Hogan. Piper gets tagged in, throws punches to Hogan, down to a knee, and then a knee lift. Gets a 2 count on Hogan. He tags Orndorff back in. Elbow to the back of neck. Kick out by Hogan. We get a backbreaker by Orndorff. Top rope, Hogan avoids a top rope knee drop, makes the tag. Mr. T with eye rakes to both, but he's quickly double teamed and he's isolated in the corner. Piper tagged in, front face lock from Piper. He's trying to wear T down here. T fights his way out, tags in Hogan, and Hogan cleans house. Orndorff counters a headlock with a back suplex. Piper starts running in and Patterson stops him, but Orndorff tries to sneak in with the referee's back's turned. Snuka jumps in and takes him out. Piper uses that distraction to attempt a double team move on Hogan, but Mr. T blocks it. Orndorff turns Hogan around to have Bob Orton hit him with a flying forearm with the cast, and Orndorff gets pulled in the way by Hogan. The cast drills Orndorff, and Hogan gets the 3 count, and our main event is over in 13 minutes, 34 seconds. Huge pop by the crowd as the babyfaces win this chaotic main event. Piper and Orton walk out on Orndorff. Winners are announced, and Orndorff's still trying to fight. He doesn't know what happened. The babyfaces explain, hey, they walked out on you. The three faces celebrate as Orndorff is ballistic. Hogan's music hit, and he poses for the crowd. Liberace and Ali come in and raise the victor's hands, and they continue celebrating as a replay is shown of the finish. So it was the match of the year for 1985. I kind of laid out a lot of it here. It was chaotic, was it not?
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
just laying that out.
Yeah. Honestly, probably not how I thought the first main event of WrestleMania would end. How it would end.
Yeah,
kind of in that way, but that's okay. That's fine.
Not how you expect it. You know, it's kind of funny to me because one thing I want to point out is, you know, how centered the celebrities were in this main event, and even the semi-main event, you know, with Cyndi Lauper. Where wrestling nowadays, fans complain when celebrities like Logan Paul have a match on a card because, you know, they're bringing in these outside guys who have nothing to do with wrestling, and they're taking a spot up on the card. You know, for people to claim to be hardcore wrestling fans, diehard wrestling fans, and to complain about a celebrity having a big part of a WrestleMania, they're missing the point.
Yeah. I mean, they've done it since day one, as we see.
Yeah, that is the roots of WrestleMania.
And
of course, there's exceptions, of course.
yeah. Probably could have done without Snooki, I guess, but
Yes, we definitely could have.
but no, it was a pretty good main event of the two Misters.
Yes.
Pretty good.
You're
Mr.
right,
Wonderful and Mr. T.
Wonderful. Yep. Mr. Wonderful, one of the best WCW themes ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that or not.
No, I don't think so.
Do yourself a favor when we get off here, and anybody, when you get done listening to this podcast, just go to YouTube and search Mr. Wonderful WCW theme. You won't regret it.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. I do think it was interesting that they had Pat Patterson be the referee. I think they a guy they trusted, and they wanted the match to go off well, I think.
Of course.
That's probably why he was there.
Absolutely. They knew this was going to be chaotic, so they needed someone they could trust. And, of course, back then, Pat Patterson was that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to close out the show. Mean Gene interviews Mr. T and Hogan. T says it was rough out there a few times. And when I say he says it a few times, he says it about 3 times. Says it was rough out there. Wrestling isn't for wimps. Hogan says now the whole world knows what it's about. And, he talks about Snuka and says he thought Snuka was going to take out everyone, which, no, don't worry about that. His girlfriend wasn't there. Snuka says it was a great pleasure for him to be there with Mr. T and his big brother Hogan. Hogan says they're going to be around for a long time. And then
oh boy,
Gorilla and Jesse Ventura close out the show. So Drew, that's going to cover it for first WrestleMania. So Drew, scale of 1 to 10, what do you give this WrestleMania?
Oh man, going back to the ratings, got me in trouble last time. Whew. I would say it was really good. I'd say probably 8.
Wow. An 8 out of 10.
Probably.
I'm shocked to hear that. So here's the reason I'm saying I'm shocked to say that. Compare it to other WrestleManias.
Well, and that's the thing is you shouldn't really compare it to the other ones. I mean, just look at the first one. I guess is my thought.
I guess that's fair. For my taste, it was okay. This was an okay show.
I think you gotta think about the time that it was in.
Well, and here's what you've got to understand. Even for the time it was in, the publications back then were even saying this was an okay event at best. So even at the time, this wasn't considered great. Even for WWF, this wasn't considered great. I'm going to give it a Bret Hart 4 out of 10.
Oh, man.
It wasn't bad.
Geez.
It was just below average. But it was still good. 4 out of 10, keep that in mind. That doesn't mean I hated it. It just means it was just kind of okay.
Yeah.
It left a lot to be desired for me. I think you're talking about it being the biggest card in wrestling history, but it's being used to set up other shows and other feuds.
Yeah.
So that's weird to me in general. But yeah, in the aftermath to WrestleMania, approximately 3 months after WrestleMania on July 6th, 1985, Greg Valentine did lose the Intercontinental Championship back to Tito Santana in a cage match. At about the same time, Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik would lose the tag team titles back to the U.S. Express. They held the titles until August, until the team of Greg Valentine and Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake won the titles from the U.S. Express. They would become known as the Dream Team. On July 8th, 1985, Don Morocco won the inaugural King of the Ring by defeating Iron Sheik in the finals. After Andre the Giant defeated Big John Studd at the event, Studd formed a tag team with King Kong Bundy, and they would face Andre and Hulk Hogan on a number of occasions. In late 1985, Richter lost her WWF Women's title in a controversial fashion. She wrestled a masked female known as the Spider Lady, who pinned Richter to win the title. It was revealed to be the Fabulous Moolah, and it was actually a screw job. Richter was not aware of the planned title change, nor that it was Moolah, and of course, Richter left shortly afterwards, and Moolah held the title for 2 years. And in the main news storyline after WrestleMania, Roddy Piper began training Bob Orton as a boxer. Hulk Hogan accepted a challenge on Mr. T's behalf to face Orton in a match on February 15th, 1986 at Saturday Night's Main Event 5, I believe. Yes, 5. After Mr. T won the match, Orton and Piper attacked him, which led to the boxing match between Piper and Mr. T at the second annual WrestleMania. And it would end in controversial fashion, to say the least. So yeah, we are quite literally, you ranked it double that I did. Now, historical significance-wise, 10 out of 10, right? For the historical significance of WrestleMania? Are you here? Yeah, the historical significance is a 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess you'd probably say that, yeah.
I mean, here we are. I'm not saying the show. I'm saying when it comes down to the significance of it historically, it's 10 out of 10 significant historically.
Yeah, the very first one, and now here we are 37 years later, yeah, 10 out of 10.
Here we are 37 years later doing WrestleMania month, preparing for WrestleMania 38. Yeah. That is going to wrap up today's show. I had a fun time talking about WrestleMania 1, and next week, Drew, we were originally going to cover WrestleMania 2, but we are now instead going to be covering, drumroll please, our favorite Undertaker streak matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Undertaker, of course, Drew, was announced for the Hall of Fame, and you actually came up with this idea. So before we go, give people a little sneak peek of something they might hear next week.
Well, I don't know how many matches you want to possibly talk about.
That will be
5 of them, or
we'll see.
Yeah, I guess
we'll it's going to be determined.
Yeah. I think we'll pick our personal favorites, and we'll just kind of talk about it. And could be 5 of them, could be 10 of them, could be 21 of them. Who knows?
Now, obviously, there's some pretty obvious ones. What is a match on your list that might not be an obvious one for people to have named?
Like the most obvious one?
No, what's the least obvious one on your list? Because, of course, there's the classics with Michaels and with Triple H and stuff like that. But what's one on your list that you think is kind of an underrated gem that people might not predict is going to be on this list?
Oh, man. Well, maybe I'm biased, but maybe WrestleMania 24 with Edge, I think was good.
That was very good. Yep, that was, of course, the first WrestleMania I watched live, and you as well. And by live, we mean when it happened, not in person.
Yeah. The whole long storyline with those two was great.
Yeah, so before we wrap up, I did want to tell you, I did have a bit of nostalgia watching this main event, and I'll tell you why. So, to add a little bit of a personal note to this show today, when I was getting back into wrestling in 6th grade, so my dad took me to Blockbuster one weekend when I was over at his house. No, sorry, Family Video. And we picked out the Born to Controversy Roddy Piper DVD. I loved Roddy Piper as a kid. And
yeah,
that was the first time I ever saw this match, was on that DVD. We watched the entire 3-disc set that day.
Oh, wow. And,
it's no secret I wanted to be a wrestler for a long time. I apologize if I get emotional here.
It's all right.
And it's it just kind of brought back a lot of waves of nostalgia. Roddy is one of my all-time favorites. And I know this is going to be a controversial take, but Hogan too. Those two are easily in my top 10 and top 15. Roddy is who I wanted to emulate, like promo-wise and everything, and just going back and watching this kind of brought me back to that time. And It just, yeah, I have very fond memories of watching this match. I have very fond memories of Roddy Piper, and I'll be honest, man, it was, I still get kind of choked up and have a tough time talking about him. Obviously, I'm not going to say I ever met the guy, but he had a huge impact on my life, and
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like I said, I like worshipped Roddy. I studied Roddy when I was in pro wrestling training. I cut promos in the mirror like Roddy Piper. So that was one thing I wanted to say before we wrap things up. Is this brought me back to a pretty fun time in my life, and just kind of reminded me of why I love wrestling.
Yeah, man, that's really nice, and appreciate you for sharing that.
I'm glad I made it through that.
He was something else.
Yeah, I'm glad I made it through that. I was thinking about talking about this earlier in the day and was tearing up, so I'm glad I made it through that.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
you did good. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking about this. Drew, I know you're probably going to get emotional in 2 weeks because we're going to be covering something that's going to bring up some sentimental memories for you. Your first ever WrestleMania that you attended live. So in 2 weeks, what are we going to be covering, Drew?
Oh, WrestleMania 26 from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yep, a pretty good WrestleMania to my memory. 12 years, nearly 12 years. And then the week after that, the final episode before WrestleMania, we will be covering the first WrestleMania I attended live. WrestleMania 32, ironically enough, from Dallas. So I think that's a perfect way to close out WrestleMania month. We discussed the WrestleMania the last time they were there. On top of just covering the shows, I think we should provide some personal stories next week for, sorry, not next week, but during those shows. And kind of tell people about our experiences there, because a lot of people have probably not been to a WrestleMania.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's something else.
It absolutely is. All right, man. Well, it's been fun covering this with you. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're watching on the YouTube platform, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. If you are on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please be sure to rate the show and leave us a review, and head on over to the YouTube channel and leave it a like. And yeah, we will see you guys next week on Wrestling the Past. Take care.
Peace out.